Time for us to begin. Let's just to kind of recap the. Remember Bell? What's his Lila Bell?
Bell Williams?
Leela Bell. Leela Bell, the little 3-year-old, came to her 2-year-old, came to her heart cath successfully, and we're expecting her to have a full recovery. Ralph is getting back to his routine, and Buddy's home. So a lot of people are getting back to where they belong, and so it's good. Anybody new that we need to mention? Andy, would you word a prayer for us, and we'll get started here tonight.
Sure. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the joy of having that living experience of a father like you are. To have a father that loves us and that cares intimately for us, that knows our name and cares what we are, what we do, but yet has that power, knowledge, the ability to actually help us, unlike what our earthly fathers can do in further ways. Please be with us tonight. We help us to learn to love you more, to know your paths better, where we may walk them better, and we may lead other people to you in your ways. Please be with our sick. Please bring them back to us. Ease their suffering. Be with our those of our number that are in pain. Try to ease their pain. Bring them back. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Andy. So tonight, remember where we're at? Goodness. So I thought we might start this way, particularly where good is used in the text. It's often a modifier of another word. So I wrote some down. I don't think this is an exclusive or exhaustive list, but what are some of the ways in Old and New Testament it just comes to mind? Good what? I won't say the easy ones. I'll let y'all grab those. Somebody said something, I just didn't hear it.
It was the evening and the morning, and it was good.
At the very beginning, yeah, from Genesis, right there in that first chapter, almost every day, what's the conclusion? It was good, and the last day when we were made, very good. Okay? To me, good news, that comes up a lot. So what are some of those other good blank that you can think of just off the top of your head? Denise, do you have one? She's thinking.
Good Shepherd?
Good Shepherd. There you go. We'll get rolling here. Somebody say a few, and it'll be easier for ones to come out. You're just waiting on me, aren't you? Good Promises. Another one I ran across. The Good Samaritan. Good Soil. Good Fruit. Good Teacher. Good Servant. We fought the good fight. Good Promise. Good Confession is mentioned. Good Deeds is mentioned a lot. So just trying to paint a picture that good is a word that's mentioned a lot. If you start looking at the text, there's a lot of things that are said to be good We have the word goods, things that we have and own and possess, or buy and sell. But the specific word used in this chapter, in Galatians chapter 5, means uprightness of heart, goodness, kindness. So when they translated goodness, that's a pretty direct translation. But the emphasis, I think, that's important for us, it's not just being good. A lot of the emphasis, and we'll see in the verses we look at tonight, it's doing good. So a difference in just something is either good or bad, it's more about the action and the outcome and who it's for that determines the goodness. So I found this definition or explanation may even be better that I really liked. Goodness finds its fullest and highest expression in that which is willingly and sacrificially done for others. So let that soak in a second. Its fullest and highest expression is willfully and sacrificially those things we do for others. It is in moral and spiritual excellence, manifested in active kindness. I like that phrase, active kindness. Goodness describes a positive moral quality characterized especially by interest in the welfare of others. So it's not I'm good and they're bad, it's what am I doing that brings good for somebody else. In the sense, because that's what God does, right? What he does. When he said in Genesis 1, as Sue mentioned, what does he mean by it? He created light and it is good. Well, it was good for us. We'd be bumping into everything, right? When he put the animals on the earth, that was good. It was good for us. It's creating an ecosystem that we can live in. It is the generosity which springs from the heart that is kind and will always take care to obtain for others that which is useful and beneficial. So when you hear in this fruit of the Spirit, goodness is less, and there's always an element of this, it's less about the moral rightness. To me, I hear that more in righteousness. Oftentimes we say good is being right, and so we kind of make those synonyms. I'm making a little bit of a difference in that goodness seems to be what I do that benefits others. Doesn't mean it won't benefit myself, but I certainly have a wider expression that I'm looking at if I'm experiencing the fruit of goodness. Or how about this way? Goodness is action. It is not something we do only for the sake of being virtuous, when we strive to be good only for our benefit. It is not truly goodness that we possess. So this is a different kind of goodness than what we kind of push our kids to, right? We're coming into the goodness season for kids, right? They have motivation to be good. We even create mythological characters that say, if you don't be good, meaning do what I tell you to do, Santa isn't going to come, right? So that goodness is motivated, and there's nothing wrong inherently with them being motivated to do right. I'm separating that's the kind of goodness we're talking about here, because our goodness is motivated in outcomes for other people. Does that set with you okay? All right. Well, let's look. There's plenty of text here. So let's just look at a few of them tonight. First one, Acts 9. We're preaching through Acts, so I had to at least do one Acts verse. This one's more specific because it's about a person. Chapter 9, verse 36. In Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. Her Greek name is Dorcas. And the description of her, she was always doing good and helping the poor. So her good was for benefit of others. She was a lady of means, and she didn't just use that means to gather wealth for herself. She did good. She helped and did things that made a difference for other people. So I thought that was a good one to start, because it's a living example of what I think this word is establishing for us. So next we'll go to my favorite, Micah 6. A lot of Old Testament examples where good is used, and obviously that's a different word because it's a different language than the Greek word in Galatians 5. But I think it'll track with the same idea. Micah 6, verses 6 through 8. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgression, and to walk humbly with your God? I find that verse helpful, informative, instructive, not just in a way to think, but in a way to behave. I want to be fair and just in what I do in my relationships. I don't have to exact everything. I can practice mercy and realize my relationship to God, to walk humbly in the presence of God. To me, that's a pretty good description of goodness coming out of my spirit. To have that kind of blessing and character. Next, I had on the list several things we've already talked about, all the scriptures from Genesis 1. And God saw it was good. And God saw it was good. And God, you got the picture, we already talked about that, right? But I think it's significant, and what I want to add to what we've already said, is goodness is something you can see. God saw it, and he said, this is good, right? So the idea, too, I think, is one of my favorite ways to help understand what people are thinking is to say, if you have a video camera and you're videoing good, or whatever it is I'm asking them to videotape, what do I see on the tape or on the camera? Because it's not just a word. There's more substance there. It's something you can see. And I think that's an important characteristic to pull out of Genesis. When we talk about this goodness of the fruit of the Spirit, it's not just up here in our head and us getting everything lined up. It's going to come out of us in the way we act and behave and treat and think about the world around us. Let's do a couple of Psalms. Psalm 34. Starting verse 11. Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Whoever of you loves life and desires to see many good days, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from telling lies. Turn from evil and, there it is again, do good. And if you remember how the Psalms work, oftentimes the second line is a commentary on the first line. What does it mean to turn from evil and do good? Well, one way it looks is to seek peace and pursue it. So another aspect you could talk about goodness is it brings peace, it brings reconciliation, it brings relationship, and that is something we can pursue, that we can work towards, something that is active again.
Well, it doesn't say turn from evil and be good, it says do good.
Do good, exactly. Yeah, that's really what I'm trying to stress here. And I don't know that those are two opposite totally things, but if I'm trying to be good and I wait to do good, I'm not really leaning into this. But if I say I'm going to do good even if I don't evaluate myself as being good, I'm not going to wait till that'll come, maybe, is the way I'm trying to say that. I like that. Clark.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could think of yourself as being good because you're staying away from vices. So,
Yes.
but that doesn't say you're doing anything positive. You're staying away from the negative.
Which is great, right? But it's not goodness, right? Staying away from bad is not the same as good. And oftentimes we evaluate that. There's a meeting, we do something at church, and we say, did anybody hear any complaints? And people say, no, well, we must have done good. No, we just didn't get any complaints. It doesn't mean it was good. And just because there was complaints doesn't mean it was not a good thing. Somebody could have an issue that doesn't mean it wasn't good, right? So to evaluate good or bad based on if somebody disagrees, doesn't like it or likes it, or it's just something we're not doing, I'm not lying, well, that's good. But that's not doing good. It takes more, is what you're saying, Clark. Yeah, I'm with you. Also do Psalm 136. I know we talked about this months ago, and so you all have it right on the tip of your tongue. Psalm 136 is that repeating psalm, right? Where every other line is, His love endures forever. But you remember how 136 starts? Give thanks
To the Lord, for He is good.
Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. So, if you read the Psalms, that line comes up a variety of times. And I think that's an important aspect to bring into goodness. Maybe it's never that I am good, but because of my relationship with God, I share in His goodness. This idea that God is good allows me to know how to act and behave and love like Him, as opposed to me being good. And that's a problem if we're trying to make ourselves good. We can think of the times we weren't good. Are you good at remembering those? I am. I can tell you mistakes that I made 50 years ago. And it only takes one exception to say, well, if good is all the time, it only takes one exception to not be good. So I don't find that a very helpful way of viewing it. But this idea of being connected to God and His Spirit, and that's the source of good, I can get a lot of a lot of comfort from that view. I also found several proverbs that I thought would be helpful to bring in. I don't know when the last time I read through Proverbs, but it's like 88 AD history. You know, every 2 lines it's a different thought, right? You're just jumping around, lots of streams. So, but if you read through, there's several. Chapter 12, verse 2. Good people obtain favor from the Lord, but He condemns those who devise wicked schemes. Or 12:14. From the fruit of their lips, people are filled with good things, and the work of their hands bring them reward. So again, the fruit of lips tied with what we're doing. Or 13:2, very similar. From the fruit of their lips, people enjoy good things, but the unfaithful have an appetite for violence. So part of this fruit of the Spirit is cultivating the like and the experience of something different than what we may start out with. We don't crave the violence anymore. We want something different. I don't know if you've ever cultivated a taste for something that in the beginning you didn't really like. I would say I've done that with coffee. You know, in the beginning, that's nasty, I'll never drink that. And then in college, you go, well, I got to drink it because I got to stay up all night and finish this paper. You know, without a necessity. And then one day, I had good coffee, and it was kind of like, hey, wait a minute. I could like this, a little cream. I can do this. Well, now I drink and enjoy the taste of coffee every morning black. You know, it was a transition. I didn't start out right there. Now that doesn't mean you can develop a taste for every thing God has made, right? There may be some things you just can't handle. So when my youngest daughter was doing the world race, it's an 11-month kind of mission trip. They did a different country every month, and they did different kinds of work every month. So she was in Central America, she was in Africa, she was in Asia, and I told her, when you get to Asia, you have to eat durian. Are you familiar with durian? I wasn't until I had started reading. I saw a show one time, and they were eating durian, and they described it as the smell of it is a cross between rotten eggs and stinky feet. So I'm signing up for not liking it right there. And in fact, in most of Asia where they grow it, it's a really weird looking fruit. They won't even let you carry it on the public transit because the smell is so strong. And so my daughter, being a obedient child, was in a market in, I think it was Malaysia or somewhere, and she had one of her friends tape her eating durian, and it was just as you would expect. She didn't like it. It was an unpleasant experience. But one of the girls she was with, who was from there, said, are you going to finish that? She's like, no. She said, well, can I have it? And she ate it. She said, this is really not that bad. Well, what's the difference? She had cultivated a taste for something that somebody else thought that this is not good. Same thing, I think, for us is what this speaks to me is that we can develop a taste for goodness. How about 14:22? Do not those who plot evil go astray, but those who plan what is good find love and faithfulness. If we're plotting evil, are we surprised when it doesn't work out good for anybody? But those, it says, who plan what is good. So it's intentional, right? It's something we're doing, and it's even intentional. Find love and faithfulness. All right, let's move a couple more Old Testament, and then we'll move to the New Testament. Jeremiah. Jeremiah can be pithy sometimes, which is amazing with all the things he went through. Jeremiah 10:5. This is more a comment, but I think it still lends to what we're talking about. But this is a great image. Like a scarecrow in a cucumber field. Their idols cannot speak. They must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them. They can do no harm, nor can they do any good. So again, just reinforcing that idea that goodness, if it's true and right, is about what is done and doing, and chasing after things that won't bring that is like change his skin, or a leopard its spots. Neither can you do good who are accustomed to doing evil. So we fool ourselves if we think, well, I can just do whatever I want, any way I want to do it. I can think about myself. And then think we're just going to automatically just start doing good, like flipping a switch. Probably shouldn't have that expectation. Well, as we move into the New Testament passages, there's plenty. I've just touched the hem of things to talk about. A lot in the Gospels, and so Matthew, Luke, Mark sometimes have the same account. I've just drawn from one of them. So let's start in Matthew 5. What is goodness? Well, this is Jesus speaking, Sermon on the Mount time. You are salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good. See, we have a purpose. Going back all the way, part of the reason Genesis 1 is good is God created things and they're fulfilling their purpose. Jesus is hitting on that same theme here. You're to be like salt, but if you lose your saltiness, you're no longer good, except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. Skipping down to 15, he continues. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. That makes a lot of sense, right? You get light, but then you hide it. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So it's okay to be seen. Now, certainly, we're not talking about you do it to be seen, and then when nobody's looking, you stop. But if you're actively doing good and helping others, it's going to be seen. Somebody's going to notice. Somebody's going to catch you. It's okay. It's like a light set on a hill. The lights on the hill, people are going to notice. Clark.
Well, in the next chapter, he talks about not doing the good works in order to be seen.
Yes.
But the purpose is revealed at the end of that they're going to glorify God.
Exactly.
They're not going to glorify you. You're
Right.
going to do it in such a way that they glorify God.
Yes. There's a band called Audio Adrenaline. They have a song called I'm See Through, right? Yeah, I'm there, I'm doing, but I'm transparent. People can see through me, and when they do, they see God, right? They see the motivation, what is empowering us, the spirit that is within us, and that glorifies God. And I think we're going to touch on that here in a minute. Matthew 12, verse 34. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him. Now, I don't know how many times I read that verse, and it hit me differently today. The good stored up in him. It's something we draw off of that we've put inside ourselves, that we have built up, that we have intentionally cultivated. So that's been meaningful to me. The good stored up in him. An evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. One more from Matthew 19:16. Just then a man came up to Jesus and asked, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?" That's the Santa Claus rationale, right? I do something good, I'm going to get a good thing. And that's the way a lot of life works. But we're talking about something different, something spiritual, something more sustaining. Notice Jesus' response. The guy asked, what's the transaction with God for me to be good? Get what I want. I know there's a cost, I got to do it. What is it? Why do you ask me about what is good? The only one who is, there is only one who is good. If you want to enter life, keep the commandments. He says, Jesus, could you boil that down to me? Give me one thing and I'll do it and be done with it. Now, when I hear Jesus saying, keep the commandments, it's not, well, don't break any of the rules, back to our thought. It's a way of life. It's who you are. It's everything that you're doing is part of being connected and living for God. That's when you're going to have life. And notice that Jesus doesn't say you'll have eternal life. You will enter life. It will already have begun. Okay, now getting to your thought, instead of the Matthew passage, I chose the Luke reading of it. Luke 6:27, again, it's Luke's rendition of the Sermon on the Mount. A little different than Matthew's. And I apologize ahead of time. What he says is really inconvenient for us. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Oh, great. Do good. Not be good, not think good thoughts. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good, we emphasize that first part, but he really, verse 33 to me is more problematic. Because we're like, well, I love them, but I'm not going to be near them, right? This says, and if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies. Do good. There it is again. Do good to them. And lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. If God's unkind to them, what should we be doing? Same thing. Be merciful just as your Father's merciful. Thinking back to Micah 6. So God's been saying this a long time. You know you're developing in the spirit of goodness when you don't have to retaliate against things done to you. You would rather reflect the glory of God than seek justice or revenge. First Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. So, to me, this ties a lot into the Galatians 5. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. Now, to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. See, I think that's also an important aspect. It's not good for me and I don't care about you. It's what is the common good. I have a friend in Lufkin. He's a U.S. state judge. That's one of his favorite phrases. What is the common good? What are we doing here? How does this help all of us? He does drug court, if you're familiar with that concept, where it's not about punishment. It's about the legal system still in place, but it's about getting people clean and sober and having a mechanism to do that. But he has also developed a psychiatric docket where people who are in need of mental health services are treated not just criminally. Right? The way we do things, criminal's still part of it, but he's trying to find a way forward, a common good. How do we help people get to a better place? I think Paul has, in these two places, in Galatians and Corinthians, tied that together. So let's bring in a couple of New Testament voices here right at the end. James, he had a lot to say about deeds, didn't he? Chapter 3, verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it. Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. James 4:17. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do, again, it's active and doesn't do it, it's sin for them. I was trying to help a guy and his wife one time, and he finally was honest with me. He said, I'd rather see her hurt than for things to get better. And I just said, okay, we're done. I can't help you. If that's your intention, let's just quit wasting our time. Peter, 1 Peter 2, verse 11. Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us. Right? It's not our right thinking, it's our right doing that is the best witness. It's not a legal argument. So let's close, circling back to Galatians. For the Spirit, that's chapter 5. But Paul says this, and this is your exhortation as we leave tonight. Chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people. Not the ones we like, not the ones that's next door, to all people. Especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Right? It doesn't say, let's just do good to other Christians. Let's do good to all people. But yeah, let's take care of each other too. That should be a given. Glad you're here tonight. Hope you're blessed this week. And you encounter goodness in the people around you.